Welcome back to today's Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to jump right into this one with you. You know, have you ever looked at highly successful people and just wondered what their secret actually is? It is so easy to look at a champion, a millionaire, or some great leader and just assume they were born with it, right? We say things like, oh, they're just so talented, or wow, they got really lucky, or they're just incredibly intelligent. But the source material we're looking at today completely shatters that illusion. The truth? Success isn't about talent, luck, or raw intelligence at all. It's actually about the daily routines that most people completely ignore. Every single successful person you admire was once a beginner who just refused to quit. And yeah, they probably struggled with the snooze button just like the rest of us. So today, we're going to break down the powerful daily habits that separate winners from everyone else and show you exactly how you can start building them today. All right, let's dive right into this. The absolute biggest myth out there about success is this idea of doing extraordinary things once. We kind of get brainwashed into thinking success is about that one massive viral moment or that single heroic stroke of genius. But the reality is way less glamorous. It's literally about doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. This is the foundational secret right here. Winners don't rely on massive one-time bursts of energy. They rely on mastering excellent, seemingly boring daily habits. It's about taking the completely mundane, ordinary tasks of your day and executing them with extraordinary consistency and focus. That brings us to section 1, the power of consistency, showing up every day. Here is the absolute truth. Success is not built on perfect days. It's built on consistent ones. Average people work when they're motivated. And look, we all know that feeling, right? When you wake up, the sun is shining, your coffee is brewed just right, and you feel ready to conquer the world. It's super easy to work then. But the real separation happens when things get hard. Winners show up when they are exhausted. They show up when they're deeply discouraged. And maybe most importantly, winners show up when nobody is watching them to give them a round of applause. Motivation? Well, motivation is just a feeling, and feelings are pretty fleeting. If you only wait for motivation, you're only going to work a few days a month. The people who keep showing up, regardless of how they feel, are the ones who always move ahead. Which leads us to section 2, protecting your time, guarding your most valuable asset. The source material hits us with a pretty sobering fact here. You can always make more money, and you can always build new relationships. But time is the single resource you can never, ever get back. Because it's non-renewable, successful people guard it fiercely. They avoid endless scrolling. I mean, we're all guilty of losing hours to the infinite doom scroll on our phones, especially late at night. But winners recognize this as a massive drain on their future. They ignore meaningless drama and gossip because it just eats up mental energy that could be used for building their actual goals. By cutting out these distractions, they can focus on what truly matters. For a winner, every single minute is an investment. They don't just spend their time, they invest it wisely, so it becomes the foundation of a much better future. Moving right along to section 3. Continuous learning, lifelong students. This is such a crucial pivot in our explainer because the fundamental rule here is super simple. The absolute second you stop learning is the exact moment you stop growing, period. To maintain that continuous growth, you gotta read books, learn new skills, ask questions, and honestly, perhaps the hardest one for a lot of us, listen way more than you speak. The most successful people in the world consider themselves lifelong students. They literally check their egos at the door. Why? Because they understand that applied knowledge opens doors that raw talent alone never, ever can. Talent might get you noticed, sure, but continuous learning is what keeps you in the room and elevates you to the very top. Next up is section 4, discipline over motivation, turning dreams into reality. Now, what's really interesting about this mindset shift is the complete change in internal dialogue. As we touched on earlier, human feelings are constantly changing. Some days you feel great, some days you really don't. But true discipline remains completely steadfast. When faced with a task, average people ask themselves, do I feel like doing this right now? And usually, let's be honest, the answer is a hard no. But successful people, they don't care how they feel. Instead, they use a specific, relentless filter. Does this move me closer to my goal? That is literally the only question that matters to them. It completely strips away all the emotion and the excuse-making. This single question, asked over and over again, is exactly how discipline turns dreams into reality, one single decision at a time. That takes us to section 5, redefining your failures, embracing setbacks. A lot of people think successful folks are just incredibly brave and totally unafraid of anything. But actually, winners aren't scared of failure at all. They are completely terrified of staying exactly the same. They totally reframe their reality. Every mistake, it's just a lesson. It's not a dead end, it's data. Every setback is preparation. You aren't being punished, you're just being trained for the next level. And every challenge is an opportunity to grow stronger. They don't view roadblocks as a reason to stop, they view them as the very weights they need to lift to build their strength. I want to pause here for just a second because this concept is absolutely massive. They either win or they learn. If you truly adopt this mindset, losing literally ceases to exist. Think about that for a second. Losing is no longer an option if a lesson is extracted from every single outcome. You either get the exact result you wanted, or you get the lesson you needed to get that result the next time around. All right, Section 6, the 1% rule, focus on becoming better. And this brilliantly illustrates how winners avoid one of the biggest traps out there, comparing yourself to others. Winners absolutely refuse to do this. They only compare themselves to one person, and that's the person they were yesterday. The 1% rule is the core strategy they use to do that. Just 1%. Every single day, winners wake up and ask, how can I improve by just 1% today? It sounds so incredibly tiny, right? But the massive compounding power of that 1% is just staggering. Small improvements create completely extraordinary results over time. You don't build greatness in a day. Greatness is built slowly, methodically, one tiny 1% improvement and one habit at a time. Let's tie this all together in Section 7. Writing your future today, the two runners. I want to share a really emotional story drawn straight from our source material that perfectly wraps up everything we've covered in this explainer today. Imagine two hypothetical runners standing at the starting line of a race. One runner is just waiting. They're waiting for the perfect weather, they want to make absolutely sure they have the perfect shoes, and they're waiting until they feel that perfect, magical surge of motivation. But the other runner, they don't care about the weather or the shoes, they simply start running. The first runner is relying on external conditions to be absolutely flawless. The second one is relying on the discipline of taking action right now. Fast forward 1 year later, that first runner, they're still standing right at the starting line, and they still have a whole pocket full of excuses about why the conditions just aren't right yet. But the second runner has crossed countless finish lines. They've grown stronger, faster, and way more resilient. And what's the crucial takeaway here? The difference between these two runners was not talent. It wasn't that the second runner had better lungs or better legs. It was simply the sheer, undeniable habit of taking action. So that brings us to our final question for you. Which habit are you going to build today? Winners aren't born different. They just think and act differently. Your daily habits are actively writing your future every single day. So choose habits that make you stronger. Choose habits that make you unstoppable. Because I promise you, if you build these routines, one day, years from now, people are going to look at you and call you lucky. But you will know the truth. You'll know it was your habits that made the entire difference. Success is never a secret. It's a habit. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Make sure you tune into our next one, where we're going to dive into the absolute secret of staying consistent even when your motivation completely vanishes. Until then, ask yourself this. If your daily habits were broadcast for the whole world to see right now, would they predict a winner or a spectator?